Hey all, welcome to today's channel chat. This is the first chat we've done following the Hot Buttons and MMO series, but many of today's topics relate. We're going to dig into some of the more thorny issues, as we love to do on this channel, no fear. And joining us today to dig in with us is someone you may know from Spectrum or Reddit or even the Verse, Shankerz. Thanks so much for joining us today. Great to have you.
Hey, thank you.
Definitely. So, as I understand it, you are heavily invested in Star Citizen, and you're an active, avid PvPer. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, that's fair. I started back in 2012. I was at GDC 10/10/12 and watched Chris Roberts get on stage, give his presentation. I got my golden ticket and was a very early backer of this program, and I've been here ever since.
2012. Wow. I don't meet many from then. So, what brought you to Star Citizen? What intrigued you?
I've been playing games since the 90s, as a kid, and I've always loved PvP games. I played Chris Roberts' Wing Commander games. I remember playing on my dad's old Commodore 64 and playing the old Strike Commander games. And it really kind of grew up with loving flight sim games, but more importantly, space sim games. I played a lot of EVE Online, and as much fun as that was, it didn't really scratch that pilot sim aspect that Star Citizen pitched. And when I watched Chris Roberts give his demo, and I watched that pilot get into the seat and take off and fight those Vandal craft, I was like, oh my God, this is what I need. I am hooked.
I don't blame you. I remember at the time, I wasn't even doing a whole lot of PC gaming. I've gone through peaks and valleys of my PC gaming career, and at the time, I was kind of detached from it, but still, I remember the idea of Star Citizen floating by, and I remember thinking, wow, that's going to be really great, but then I just kind of tuned it out, and I didn't hear much about it until much later, so I didn't come along until 3.17, but as soon as I got in and I saw what they were trying to do, I was like, okay, wow, this could be it. So
yeah, it was really slow in the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember like there was no game. There was literally just the RSI forums, and the PvP debate started from like date one, right? There was the PvP versus PvE, the PvE slider, and I mean we don't even have a client yet. This is like late 2012, early 2013. And the first module we got was called the hangar module. And literally was a hangar that you could run around in, look at your ships, and that was it. They put a little buggy in it. We had jumps. They put a little flaming circle that you could jump through. And I mean, that was the game we had. And then they came out with a dogfight module. And that's really where, we call it Arena Commander. Back then it was a dogfight module in 2013. And that's really where our PvP started, where it was we were able to shoot at other ships and get a taste for the game. 2015 rolled around, end of 2014. I believe it was 2015 when we got the first iteration of the PU. And that's kind of what we know today, and where we play for the most part is in the PU. And that's really where PvP kicked off. I mean, that's where we could gank, we could sit, we could camp, and do a lot of things that we do today.
Awesome. So you were talking about the dogfight module. How different was ship combat in that module versus what it is today?
Night and day. Believe it or not, the 300 series was viable back then. The 325 could kill. Mass drivers were OP as hell. I mean, it was just a crazy different iteration. The Hornet was strong back then, but yeah, the Vandal Scythe was actually usable. I mean, it was just a different time period before what we got to what we have today. Ships, ballistics were strong back then. You actually had ammunition, and you could reload the ammunition in your hangar. You actually started it by jumping into your ship. There was a really cool animation where you would climb into your Hornet, you'd pick up your helmet, you'd flip it around, put it on, and then you would load into Arena Commander from your cockpit. And that was early 2013, 2014.
No kidding. You could reload ballistic ammunition. I've been sitting here asking, like, why can't we reload these guns?
Yeah, so you used to be able in your hangar module, you could actually pull. I mean, it looked like a huge can of 50 cal ammo, and you could literally pull it out and put it in underneath the old mantises on the Hornet, and you could move ammunition that way. Totally. I mean, it didn't last very long, but it was a thing we could do at a period of time.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And you said day one the PvP PE debate started. That's it's So we just recently got done with this hot button MMO series, and one of the things we were talking about in that series is the PvE versus PvP raging debate. It's not just Star Citizen; it's every game. So it's no surprise to me that it's been going on since day one. But I think some people might be surprised to hear that this is not just a recent thing.
No, dude, it's been going on since day one, and it's hilarious because if you see how it's transformed over the years and the different culture that Star Citizen has brought, the debates have changed a lot as CIG has grown and the game has changed, right? When Chris originally pitched this game, there was a series put on, I don't know if you heard of Wingman's Hangar with Eric Peterson, Wingman, and Chris Roberts. They were very early developers of this game. And every week they would do a series on this game. And part of it covered PvP and PvE. And they brought out new concepts like, the 9-to-1 ratio, the PvE PvP slider, all these things that the PvE community latched onto is, oh, thank God we're going to be safe. These things are going to save us. And as the game developed and these things kind of changed, the PvE community really started to realize that, hey, this game is really not in our focus right now, or it's becoming more PvP focused. And this went on from 2013 to 2014, 2015. You had large groups of E players join Star Citizen, and I want to say 2014, 2015. And the community really started to become more PvP focused. And then you started also noticing the sales, right? One big part about CIG is you have to understand how they sell and how they make money, right? If you looked at the last 3 years and looked at how many combat ships they put out and how many PvP focused ships they put out, as opposed to non-combat, you can really see where the game has changed in development, as well as the events that they do. Just recently, we started seeing a couple more PvE events, but the majority for the last 3 years have been heavily PvP focused or environments where you can do PvP. And the PvE community obviously does not like this, right? The recent Supply or Die event. All these events are in areas where you can PvP. And for people like me, that's open season. That's like, that's like a gazelle standing there in the open. It's easy hunting season.
Speaking of PvP, you're an avid PvPer, as you just led on. We're rolling a video here in your avatar frame. It's showing a handful of your kills. Do you care to explain what's going on in this video?
Yeah, so PvP is a large aspect, right? So recently, I've kind of flopped over to these large cruise ships like you're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
For 8 years or so, I sat in a single seat fighter. I competed in a single seat fighter and arena commander, and I was very big into the competitive, PvP and AC. Right? Been there, done that. Now I sit in the PU. I fly these big ships, which are what you're seeing right now. I'll intentionally target an area where I know there's going to be a lot of players. Right? What you're seeing right now is basically the event. It's not Supply or Die. I forget what the name of the current event is, but it came out, I want to say last patch, where there are these large supply missions that you have to turn in boxes for to get credit. You get skins, each station has one, and it's very easy to tell where people are going to go, right? You do the missions, you figure it out. Everest is a major hub for people to turn in these missions. They go down, they hand load probably about an hour's worth of cargo, then they fly back to the station to try to turn it in. So I have learned if you sit with an Idris M outside of one of these stations at about 5K range, the turrets can't hit me, but my railgun can hit anybody in that area because it's got a 10K range. So what you're seeing me do here is sit out the station and wait for people to come in with their fully loaded cargo and then have them explode right before they get to safety. It causes some frustration, I will say. And these victims of mine then will normally gear up, they'll band together and try to fight me off. And we'll get these some hellacious battles outside of Everest. You're seeing me do this solo, and some of these videos you'll also see with my org. A lot of times what we will do is we will take 10 or 11 of these Idris M's, and we will shut down all 4 stations on a high pop server. So we'll target a server that's got 650 people in it. We'll take 2 Idrises, we'll put them at each station. So we have a crossfire covering all directions, in or out. And then we will set up these places at all 4 of these stations. And at once, we'll trigger it all at once. And we'll just start engaging any cargo ship that comes in the area. The server very quickly learns that, hey, there's somebody camping all 4 stations. But by that time, we probably have 80, 90 kills of people's cargo ship. And then you'll have a larger org that will show up to fight us. And then we'll all converge and we'll have this massive fleet battle at one of these stations. A lot of fun. We enjoy it. Not everybody else does, but hey, that's the state of the game.
Emerging gameplay. I can see how, especially the large fleet battles that follow, would be very enjoyable. Now, do you have any goals with these activities? Is it just for fun and scoreboards at the moment, or is there a bigger picture here?
It's just for fun.
Yeah.
You're seeing me play this game right now, like Call of Duty, right,
Yeah.
or any other game where I can go in and kill people, right? I am gaining nothing from this. There's no financial benefit for me making these kills. I don't post YouTube videos. I don't. I mean, you're the first person that's done an interview with me since 2012, so I'm not really big outside of my org and seeing these kills. But for us, it's fun. I also like to generate that fight in the series. So for me, when somebody comes back and wants to fight us afterwards, that is a blast. I live for that. We had an org come back and fight us, and it was hilarious. I equivalent it to the Dunkirk rescue in World War II, where they showed up with every imaginable craft possible to fight us, from heralds to transport ships. I mean, we probably had 50 ships show up to fight us. It didn't work very well for them, but just it was hilarious that they tried, and it was honorable, and we had a blast doing it. So it's all about fun for us. You know, we have fun killing people. I like to play this game for PvP. I'm not looking at this as a competitive angle. If I want to play competitive and I want a fair fight, I go to Arena Commander, right? I go into free flight, I flare, I pass, and I fight somebody. You know, that's what Arena Commander is for. For here in the PU, it's all about getting kills, and you either survive, you kill, or you die. Everything else is just noise. And that's how we play the game.
Fair enough. You mentioned whenever the masses kind of figure out what's going on and begin to rally against you and show up somewhere for a big fight, that you and your org consolidate and you participate in this big fight. Are you, if you have 11 or whatever you mentioned of these Idris M's, are you flying these things solo? Are you crewing these things? How are you operating them?
So it depends what we're doing. Okay. So right now, the Idris M is amazing solo, right? Because it has a one-shot kill that can range 10,000 meters and flies at about 5,000 meters a second. As you're watching right now, I mean, I'm taking out small ships with this railgun from a good distance, 3 to 4K, which is quite hard considering the size of the ship, right? But it's possible due to the weapon. So what we will do is when we're spread out like that, I'll pull out my 11 Idrises and I will hand them off to each one of my org members, and then we will go up and set up, and then we'll close down these stations. The last big one that we had, where we had probably 40 people show up, you know, we had a code word. It was Irene. When that code word went out, everybody from all 4 stations all migrated to one station to fight. I believe they showed up with 3 Idrises fully crewed, several Polarises fully crewed, and we showed up with 12 solo Idrises, a bunch of combat ships, single seat fighters, QED, and we rocked them. Mainly because the Idris M's are so powerful. You know, we sub-target their thrusters, we blow off their thrusters. Our first task is any Idris M, we take out their main gun, we sub-target their main gun. All of us will group up, take out each Idris M's main gun first. Once their main gun is out, they're kind of dead in the water. They can't really do much to you. Multicrew Idrises really are not strong enough right now to take out other Idrises if you know what you're doing. You can noise, flare, create distance, get your shields back up, come back in. But you really can't deal with the firepower of 11 Idris M's single targeting every individual person, right? So we would name out one Idris M, we sub-target all its engines, take them off, take its gun off, pick its turrets off, now it's dead in the water, we move to the next one. We don't actually kill them, we just make them where they're useless, right? And then at that point, then once everyone's useless that's fighting us, then we can go back and start making these kills. QED makes it where they can't jump out. We normally run 3 or 4 mantises that fly out in the distance and make everyone lock down. I mean, it works. Now, we've had other times, to your second point, where we do crew, right? Where we'll run 1 or 2 Idrises, and we'll load it with a bunch of fighters and a couple mantises, and we will go out and use the Idris M like a carrier. Normally, that's for fighter operation. We're going to intentionally camp like an OM point. Like, we're going to go to OM1, set a QED, and we're going to kill anything that comes into that OM1 point, right? Well, that's also sometimes where we'll make money, right? So, like right now, you're watching me, there's no benefit here for me killing people. It's just for fun. Sometimes we'll go to OM1 and we'll close it down and we'll announce it. Or what we used to do 2 patch cycles ago, we'll go to the jump gate and we'll close down the pyro side of the jump gate entirely. You cannot get through, right? It's a little harder to do it now with the station turrets. You kind of got to sit real far back, but you used to be able to do it very effectively. And what we would do is we would announce in chat that we're selling a PvE pass. You know, we're selling a PvE pass for 800,000 UEC. If you buy our PvE pass, we will let you go through the jump gate. We'll even sell you a salvage pass for 150,000 UEC. So you can come out and salvage all these dead ships of people that we've ganked at the jump gate. And you can imagine that creates a lot of drama.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people like that, but people do pay us. It is hilarious and it is fun. A lot of times when we camp an OM point like OM1, we will QED somebody. We'll tell them in chat, "Hey, we have you QED'd. If you want to pay us 300,000, we'll let you go." And we turn it into what we call toll boothing, right? We've become a toll booth. If you want to get through our toll booth, you must pay us. Not a lot of people pay, to be honest. Most people just die or run, or they're confused. They don't understand. We end up killing them. But every once in a while, I'd say maybe 1 in 30, the PvE side will actually pay. My personal opinion, that's one of the big problems with the PvE side. They're not willing to pay or play with the PvP side. They'd rather die or Alt F4 or quit out. So there's really no benefit of us putting our time into doing what they would call legitimate piracy, because either they back space, they self-destruct, or they just they're not willing to pay. They're not willing to give up part of their profit. So we've really gotten to the point now where we're able to ask one time, but we're not going to push beyond that. We'll just kill them and move on.
Yeah. Understood. You touched on something that I have been using this platform to raise kind of some flags and alarms about, and that is the value of multi-crew over single seating, especially capital ships, but your larger ships. And one of the things I've been saying that I'm concerned about, and I'm hoping that it's an invalid concern, that they eventually figure these things out, but I would love to get your perspective on this, and that is, especially as we talk about AI blades and NPC crew and those types of things on the horizon. We don't know how far out, but eventually. And today, with things like the Idris and the pilot controlling the big gun on there, how do you balance? I don't even know what the fully crewed Idris number is, but let's just assume it's 8 people. How do you balance 8 single piloted Idrises against 1 fully crewed Idris, and make it so that there is a reason to crew a ship? Because I think a lot of us who are playing Star Citizen today, we're sold on that vision, right? Like, we came from EVE Online, where everybody flew their own ship into space battles, and we're looking forward to entering these large fleet conflicts full of fully crewed ships with engineers running around and people on guns, and all the fantasy imagery that comes with that. But the way the direction of the game seems to be taking us is that, like you said, you're not going to be able to compete with 8 Idrises with guns. Even with your 1 or 2 fully crewed Idrises, you're not going to hold up.
Well, you got a numbers problem, is what I will tell you. All right. So multi-crew has an inherent problem, right? More people want to fly their own ships than want to crew other people's ships, right? That is a stark reality in Star Citizen, right? I cannot find 8 crew members that want to give up their life of playing this game and literally sit on my ship and crew. It is very rare to find people that full-time want to crew. It's not profitable. It's boring. People don't want to sit in turrets and sit there for hours on end. And to answer your question, you also have to look at how they sold this game, right? So here's the problem that I present to you, right? You gave me a good question. I got some more answers to you, but I want to counter with a problem.
Yep.
What happens when they take everyone's I don't know, what is it up to now? $1,700 for an Idris P. What happens when they make everyone's expensive ship that all these thousands of people have bought no longer viable solo, right? What does the backlash come from? All these people who currently can play their ship solo and have been allowed to play their ship solo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can promise you, especially from the PvE side, there's going to be some very, very upset people. Chris Roberts, in the very beginning, said they were going to let you fly up to an Idris and be effective solo. Do I think it's a smart decision? No, but it was said at one point in time, and it's a game we currently have. And unfortunately, once you release something out of a bag, it's very hard to put it back in the bag. I think CIG is going to have a very hard time showing the community, hey, we're going to nerf all your large ships you guys spent thousands and thousands of dollars of in the name of multi-crew, to where now, okay, your whole org, you have 18 people and 15 of those people bought Idrises, but we're going to make them invalid where you guys need to all board 1 and those other 14 are going to sit in the haystack, right? I see that problem that CIG has created. I also see AI blades as another problem. Now, to answer your question, how they're going to balance it, I think if they're smart, they will do, and what I would do is, okay, you can still solo in Idris, right? You can have AI blades, and they'll be semi-effective, right? But when you have players, they'll be 2 to 3 times. They'll be 2 to 3 times as effective as having somebody soloed, right? So when a player gets on a turret that's controlled by a player turret, and I know you won't like this, or most people won't like this, but the number of damage that turret can do is ×5 or ×10, right? To where now the Idris, like, the turreted gun in the front can actually do damage against another Idris. Because right now, that thing can shoot all day long and do almost nothing to anyone else's ship. Same with the other turreted guns. They need to make those things actually viable. I'll give you an example. All the turrets on the Idris are utterly useless to any small craft. I can sit in a Gladius at 1800 and corkscrew, and you will not hit me with any of those guns. They are entirely useless against any small craft, right? They need to make it where it's actually deadly, where it can actually shoot down small craft, where there's actually a benefit to these guns. They talked about bringing in flak guns, right? If that happens and they actually have guns that can deal with small ships, I can see a benefit to people multi-crewing these ships. But until that balance changes, and these ships are utterly useless multi-crew, you're always going to see people doing what I'm doing, where it makes no sense to put 2 people on Idris when I can have 2 Idrises. I think the other thing that we're eventually going to see is engineering. I don't know how viable that will be. I think there's going to be a balance because, again, they do not want to kill people's ability to solo ships, but they want to be able to make it where it has a punishment for not using multi-crew. So do I see it where, okay, you want to solo an Idris? Yeah, you can probably still kill for a little bit, but at some point you're going to have to jump out because your shields are going to go down and you're not going to be able to bring them back up. So will tactics just change on the single player crew? Probably. I can tell you right now, when I play a solo crew and I get jumped by a multi-crew ship and my shields go down, what do? I jump out. I get my shields back up, I come back in. Everybody says, oh, you're a coward, you're a wuss. I stay alive, I come back in, I kill, right? At the end of the day, this game is what you can do and what you can't do. Anything else is noise. You either live or you die.
Well said. He who lives to fight another day. And yeah,
and I'll tell you one of the loopholes right now is where you see me killing at right now. So I'm in what's called a soft armistice zone, right? So I'm in Everest Harbor. I'm not in the range of where you can QED me, right? But I can kill. So there's no way to prevent me from jumping out. So if you come and attack me in these videos and you get my shields down or you wound me, I jump out, go repair, come back. You literally cannot keep me from leaving. So that is one of the flaws in this current system is there's no way to stop me from leaving. Same with other ships that we fight. Like other Idrises, we rarely kill an Idris because they jump away or players jumps away. So I can sit here all day long solo, kill people, and as soon as somebody gets me to, I don't know, 10% shields, I jump out, get my shields back up, come right back. There's nothing they can do to stop that. In my opinion, that's currently a flaw in the game.
Yeah. A lack of ability to tackle. You had posed a question to me about how people would respond to having their ships nerfed and to being utterly useless solo. I think you're a big investor in the game. How would you feel?
So I don't have a problem with it as long as it's across the board.
Yeah.
Right. As long as it's across the board. Right. So as long as it's fair, I don't have a problem as long as it's fair across the board. I'd be happy to go back to the single seat fighter. I did it for 8 years. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I can fight just as well in a single seat ship as I can fight in a large ship. I don't look at it as a loss in investment for me. I obviously you don't know my account history, but I deal heavily in the gray market, and most of my stuff comes from the gray market. So it's not like I have the same dollar value invested in this other people do. I would say every ship I have has been paid for by somebody else via the gray market in the long term. So that financial, oh no, my $1,800 ship is out of my pocket, probably doesn't burn so much to me as it's going to burn to somebody else.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that answers my question on that. A while ago, I don't know if you remember, I think this was about the last Citizen Con, maybe. I can't remember, but Star Citizen Live put on an episode about capital combat, and in that episode, they kind of showed what their vision for capital combat in the future was, and they outlined. They showed things like the battle maps and the big capital ships that would allow people on the bridge to call targets and stuff like that, and your fighter squadrons would receive those targets, and somehow that would highlight on their HUDs, and so they would know what to go after. And they explained how their vision was that fighters would be required to take out targets on capital ships to soften shields, bring turrets down, that type of thing, and then basically pave the way for the cannons on the other capital ships to actually do damage. Do you think?
I remember.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. like, how'd you think as you were watching? Do you think that's feasible? Do you think that's a good direction? Do you think that could solve some of the things we're talking about?
I think it could. The key in a lot of that gameplay is not in. I think Maelstrom will drastically change this game when they introduce armor into the game. That's part of it. A big thing is people need to understand what's coming with Maelstrom and how weapons will affect and how damage states will affect, and understand that aspect to kind of answer your question. So if you don't mind, I'm going to dive into that real quick to
Yeah, go for
answer
it.
your other question.
Yeah.
So when Maelstrom comes online, it's going to change everything we know in reference to this game in armor penetration, right? And what I explain to people is right now you could have a size 1 or size 2 gun. You could sit on my Idris. It would take you 2 days, but you would eventually be able to get my shields down and technically by raw damage eventually kill my Idris. Again, it will take you days of pecking at me, but eventually you can bring my shields down and kill me because we live in a game right now where damage numbers are in a raw state. There's no real armor effects, right? When Maelstrom comes online, using a size 1, size 2, size 3 against an Idris is like taking a handgun and shooting it at a tank. No matter how many shots you take with that 45, it will never penetrate the armor of that tank. It'll bounce off for years, right? That's what Maelstrom will come. You will have to have a certain size weapon to do damage to an Idris, to even damage its shields, or to penetrate the hull. And that's where we kind of now get into what you're talking about, where you need a multi-crew, multi-role approach, right? So if you remember that video back then, they talked about shield emitters, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we watch the Squadron 42 video, you saw how they took out the Kingship, right? They used the fighters to go in, take down the shield emitters, bring down the shields, and then the torpedo bombers were able to come in and take out that big ship. I see no different for what's coming for us. I think it's going to be the exact same way. When you have a capital ship, you're going to need to target its shield emitters. You're going to need to take out its PDCs, its turrets. You need to sub-target those things. And once you've rendered that thing incapable of defending itself, then you can torpedo it. You can hit it with those big cap guns, but it's got to be done in that way. And that brings in the rock, paper, scissors, right? Kind of like we were talking about with the fighters earlier. You're going to have fighters that are going to be there to counter the bombers. You're going to have bombers that are going to be there to counter the capital ships. You're going to have the capital ships that are going to be there to counter the other capital ships, right? That kind of rock, paper, scissors gameplay that's going to have to play out. Now, what that's going to require is coordination, right? Which is not really a problem for us. The PvP community, we're used to coordination all day long. When we go out and we set up these operations, we have it pre-planned. We have somebody there for QED, we have small ships for fighters, and we have capital ships, right? We have planned that out. The PvE side of the house, I don't think they've thought that far. Right? One of the big problems that we have is not only do people like to solo crew Idrises like I do, but the PvE side likes to solo crew their mining, their cargo, whatever they're doing on the PvE side, they like to do it solo. Very rarely do you find PvE people that group up to do PvE. It's rare in my experience in this entire verse, right? They're going to have to get used to hiring escorts, right? How often? I mean, it's a joke on Spectrum. I say it every day. I can, oh, you died. You should have hired an escort. I mean, how often does a PvE side hire people to protect them from people like me? It does not happen. Why? They'd have to share profits. They don't want to share profits. They roll the dice. They hope they don't come across me. It's like maybe 1 in 1,000 people come across me. So you're right. Normally they don't have to do it and they get away with it. But the one time they don't and I'm there, they're screwed. So it's something that I think both sides have to get used to. Yes, we're going to have to get used to defending our ships from a multi-faceted approach: bombers, fighters, armor. But the PvE side needs to understand, okay, hey, if I'm going to take that C2 out and load it with 600 SCU, I need to have somebody in a Gladius jump ahead of me so they can scout to make sure there's not somebody QED'd one jump ahead of me. When we run something that's I would say high value, that's what we do. We take somebody in a Gladius, we have them jump 2 jump points ahead, and we have somebody scout the way ahead of us. Hey, is Griefernet sitting around the corner waiting for us? Is Shadow Moses sitting around the corner waiting for us? We check the server lists. Okay, hey, look, we know 388's on the server. We know Iron Point's on the server. Hey, we know Vanguard's on the server. We take those calculated risks. Okay, maybe it's not a good time to move that expensive cargo. How much thought goes into what the PvE side of the house is doing? I don't think they put that much effort into protecting their assets. They expect the game and the developer to protect them from people like me. And I think that's one of the big problems is the developer in the game has said, it's not our responsibility to protect you, it's your responsibility to protect yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective on that is that's part and parcel for playing in a sandbox, and I think that conflict and friction is one of the things that creates a steady stream of content that's going to keep this game alive for a long time. So
if you look at my video, the very, very beginning of that video, I put a post up from Xylo on what is excessive griefing for what they have basically standardized. I mean, that came out 5 years ago. At the end of my video, there's another screen cap of another Xylo post in regards to the PvP community. In my opinion, CIG wants that dichotomy. They want that friction. They want that constant battle. That is the game they developed. And they've come out and they have said it. They have posted it. They stood behind it. I mean, what I've been doing for years. I posted on Spectrum. I don't hide. We don't hide what we do, right? We've never been banned. We've never been disciplined by CIG. We follow the TOS to the T, and we don't violate the TOS. If you watch all these videos, you're going to see people going towards their hangars, right? You'll notice I don't kill anybody in their hangar. I get them either before their hangar or I get them outside their hangar, right?
Yep.
CIG has been pretty clear about what they allow and what they don't allow. And as long as we sit exactly to the letter of that law, we're safe in doing this. And I believe that's because what CIG has intended.
Yeah. For those interested in checking out the screen post that Shankerz is talking about, I'm going to roll this full video that you're seeing in the avatar frame here. I'm going to roll the full video at the end of this so you can see it full screen and pause it and do whatever. Now, you're touching on some like solo versus group play here, which we just spent a lot of time on this channel talking about. One of the things that you also mentioned just a few moments ago was that I think your words were AI blades are another problem. Would you mind telling me what your feelings are on AI blades and potentially NPC crew, just in general?
It just it perpetuates the current problem. If we think it's bad now, right? If we think it's bad now, where you have 9 or 10 people on solo Idrises, imagine when they make it even more effective than what it currently is. I mean, that's literally what AI and NPC crews do right now. Because everybody that's soloing an Idris, I mean, we have PDCs. They really don't work on small craft anymore. Every once in a while, they'll target your friendlies when it's like, oh, heck, you know, I'm being shot by your PDCs. But they're not, I don't really count on them to take out other fighters right now. Right now, I kind of just ignore fighters for the most part. But imagine if all my turrets were online by NPC crew and I didn't need anybody else on my ship. I mean, it would be 10 times worse than what it is now. And that's why I say, like, it kind of exacerbates the current problem. I personally, I can play the game both ways. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. I can play it solo. I can play it multi-crew. What I love about the way I play this game, I adapt. This game has been changing for 10 years. I adapt every patch, right? They take something away, I adapt. They add something, I adapt. I play to whatever the current meta is. Whether the meta is one way or the other, I'm going to adapt to what is most lethal and what is most effective at killing somebody. If they make it where it's more effective to be a solo like it currently is, I'm going to stay solo. If all of a sudden multi-crew becomes more effective, we're going to switch to multi-crew. I think for the good of the game, for the PvP side, we do not want everyone solo crewing large ships. I think that is a problem in the big, long run of this game. So yes, by adding AI blades, by adding NPC crews, you are making it where everyone will do what I'm doing and on a much bigger scale. Now, I can promise you the PvE side loves that idea. They love the idea of solo crewed, NPC crewed, AI blades, because they continue to play this game solo, not have to group up, not have to hire escorts, not have to rely on an org, not have to make friends, and they can play this game like a loner and not have any issues doing it. I think that's really the contrast you see between the PvP side of the house and the PvE side. Is the PvP side is all about working together to PvP or play in a group play set. And the PvE side has a little bit of that. There are some people that do that, but a large majority of the PvE side likes to play this game solo. And I think that is contrary to what is good in the long run.
I think people watching this show really need to pay attention to what was just said. This is something that I've been kind of harping on for quite a while. I talk to so many people who take the stance of like, I just want to play alone. Just let me play alone. Like, let me do my thing. Give me my ability. Like, this is my ship. I want to fly my ship. And I understand that. And I want solo players to have a great experience. I really do. But you have to understand that like nothing exists in a vacuum, and that any optimizations in one direction affect the other direction. And one thing I've been saying is like, if it's possible to solo a capital ship and the capital ship is effective, even if it's 1/5 as effective as it is multi-crewed, if I can bring 8 of them, well then that's still better. And the meta will shift, and giving the solo pilot the ability to fly their Idris over the planetary surface and go sightseeing will have far-reaching effects, and it's going to make it so that our capital ship combat and fleet operations are just a bunch of single piloted ships. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. The whole meta shifting.
What CIG said a while ago was, and I don't know what year it was, I could dig it up, but essentially you can play this game solo, right?
Mhm.
It is a multiplayer game. You can play this game solo at a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
You will never be as effective as group play. Group play will always be more effective than the solo player, right? And that's something I think the PvE side has really lost focus on. They don't understand or grasp that idea that group play is the key here. There are plenty of lawful orgs out there that will allow you to hire them to escort you to fight people like me. What comes to mind is Vanguard. I know they're not as big today as they used to be, but there are many lawful orgs like that that you can actually hire that will come out and protect you from people like me. The question, though, is are you willing to give up some of your UEC and your profit for that? And I
Yeah.
think that's really a hard problem for the PvE side as everyone is solo focused. I don't want to call it greed, but that really kind of is the problem is they got to understand, hey, I'm playing a multiplayer game and I'm playing it solo. I'm going to be at a disadvantage. What is the risk? And am I okay with losing everything if I roll that dice?
You're talking a lot about PvE and PvP size, and of course, there's a whole spectrum in between. Do you have any thoughts on CIG's roadmap when it comes to fitting these two playstyles together? It sounds like they're going with a security model similar to what EVE Online has, where certain systems are safer than other systems. Do you think that is a good approach? Do you see any flaws with that? And do you think that addresses what the community is kind of always up in arms about?
So the PvE community will like this. I do not think it's going to work. I do not think it's going to address their fears or their behaviors because of what CIG. I mean, unless CIG creates a one-kill beam weapon that shoots down my Idris M as soon as I come into lawful space, unless they go that route where it's really silly and they defend the game that way, okay, maybe. But right now we only have the Idris. Imagine when they start giving me my javelins, right?
Mm-hmm.
I own 5. I'm about to acquire 6. If people think it's bad right now with the Idris, you imagine when my group is rocking 6 javelins, right? I mean, the idea that you are going to lock us off from killing people in safe space is a bad concept. And I'll give you this, right? How much does it cost for me to create an alt in this game? It costs $45. That
Mm-hmm.
is currently, right?
Yep.
I can do that much cheaper throughout the rest of the part of the year through referral bonuses, discount codes. You can get an alt account for about $18, right? It's pretty cheap. I can take that alt account, hand it in Idris M, and go take it anywhere in the verse. I don't have a crime stat, I got no history. I can go ganking until I pick up a crime stat, until I become notorious, right?
Yep.
I'll give you an example. Half of the way we work right now is when I'm playing this game with my crew, I have a jail alt that's sitting inside of the prison system with 2 million merits. As soon as one of us gets sent to jail, I bail it out. We're back in fight 10 minutes later, right? There is always a loophole. No matter what they create, there is always when I say loophole, I'm talking legal. We're not cheating here. We're not breaking TOS. There is always a legal loophole, right? It's a cat and mouse kind of game. I
Yeah.
think people have to understand is yes, areas will be safer. There will be less risk. But what CIG said in the beginning, you will never always be safe. Space is dangerous. There will always be a risk. And unfortunately, there are many people like me who are willing to take loss to go kill people where they feel they're safe, right? I'm willing to lose an Idris, which for most people is an hour claim time, to go into a safe place like Stanton and kill people. Why? Because I can pull out 4 or 5 more. It's not really a risk to me. And there's many other people like me and orgs like me. If you group up and pool your resources, you can mitigate risk in this game, especially to the solo player. So do I think that's going to work for CIG? And alleviate the PvE side fears? No, I don't. I think that they are either going to have to make it where areas you cannot fight in, instance combat to truly alleviate what the PvE side wants. Do I want that? No. But I think to make them happy to what they want, that is what's going to have to come. I don't think we'll ever see CIG split the player base. I don't think we'll ever see PvE servers. I don't ever think we'll see private servers to what the PvE community wants. But what I do see happen is they're going to create safe areas like Terra, where, yeah, okay, if you start killing somebody in Terra, large ships will show up and they will kill you and they will send you to prison. Okay, cool. I hop on the next alt, I keep killing, right? Or I bail myself out, I go back. Is there a downtime for me getting back? Yes, there is. Can I negate it? Yes, I can. Will the PvE community love that? No, they're going to be up in arms about it. But that's the status of the game, right? Remember, for every time they create something to benefit one side, the other side can weaponize it, right? And that's what you have to understand. They create prison times. They create something to mitigate it, we can weaponize that against other people, right? One of the things we used to do for a long time was intentionally get people crime stats, right? We would find a way to cause the other person to get a crime stat so we could send them to prison, especially somebody that's doing PvE. Whether we park in front of the ship and have them crash into us, whether we shoot over the hull and get them to shoot first. I mean, there are very many methods we used to do to get them to flag first so they would get a crime stat and we could send them to Klesher. So every time they introduce a consequence, you have to look at is how is this consequence going to be gamed, how is it going to be meted, and how is it going to be turned against the people that's intended to be used for.
Yeah, what you're talking about is basically scale. A lot of people don't think about like how these systems scale to things like multiple accounts and increased resources and all those types of things. A lot of people kind of look at it in the context that they are familiar with, and yeah, these systems really change whenever you start to think about them that way. You mentioned
CIG sold that boat when they started allowing alt accounts, right? When
yeah.
CIG permitted alt accounts and let people buy multiple alts, I mean, I have over 60. I mean, many people I know have 100 plus alt accounts that they loan out. They really kind of, in my opinion, didn't make a good decision with that. Once they sold that and allowed that, they basically let us meta game all their consequences via either handing a ship off to an alt, using an alt to get around consequences. If you look at the more nefarious orgs, I won't name them. I said it earlier, their name, but they use alt accounts on a level that we don't even go to, and they're very good with what they do with alts, with metagame infiltration, getting in people's orgs, creating fake events, and basically terrorizing people from the inside using alt.
Yeah. It's a common problem in many games. I wasn't here whenever they made that decision. I'd be curious why they made that decision. It's so obviously flawed to me. But
it was made in late 2012, early 2013. I mean, and they openly sold alt accounts, right? Oh, have one pirate account, have one white hat account, one black hat account. You know, that was openly sold in 2012, 2013. Remember, you got to look at CIG as a business, right?
yeah.
A lot of their decisions you have to look at through the eyes of a business model. What sells, what makes money, right? And a lot of their current game decisions are based on their financial model. And you have to really, really look at the finance model to understand how the game will keep developing and what changes we can expect versus what changes we can't expect. Part of the reason why I don't think we'll ever see private servers to what the PvE side would want is it would cut into CIG's funding. Right,
Yeah.
CIG makes money off their live servers from people playing on their live servers. If they create another environment where you can do everything on your own in your own neighborhood or your own backyard, there's no money for them to be made. A lot of those decisions that people have, these pipe dreams, you kind of got to put yourself in CIG's business model and understand, okay, it's cool, but it's not realistic.
Yep, I hear you. You mentioned being able to circumvent the some of the ramifications of your actions by just pulling out more ships because you have a nice lengthy list of these ships to pull from. And something we've talked about quite a bit on this channel is the financing model that you're talking about. Do you have any thoughts on ship sales, and especially ship sales post 1.0? Do you think that this is something CIG is going to maintain? We've heard that they're not. There's some conflicting information out there about it. Do you think they will? And if they do you think it's good?
They will. I have no doubt they will. And they originally, I remember when they said they would not. I remember Eric Wingman Peterson, I want to say 2013, 2014 on a Wingman's Hangar saying that they had no intention of selling ships beyond 1.0. Or it might have been Ben that made that claim. One of the two made that claim. Bandit Loaf or whatever his name was. But I don't see how their financial model will survive. I know they're hoping to make a ton of money off Squadron 42, but they make their money by selling ships. That's a reality. That's why we keep having ship sales. This year alone and last year, record number of funding based on ship sales. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now, I think, and if I remember correctly, how they've muddled the water or quibbled a little bit is they don't plan to sell existing ships. It'll only be new concept ships that they sell, if I remember correctly, is how they worded it to try to stay back true to the old days. Is okay, look, we're not going to sell any more of the current ships after 1.0, but we will sell future concept ships and new ships that are coming out, as any other game would sell something that's new that hasn't been given when the game is released. So I believe that's how they're quibbling with it. I expect us to see ships. I expect the power creep to continue. I don't think that will ever change. I expect us to have a lot more capital ships. I think we're just scratching the surface on large ships. I think we're going to see battle cruisers, battleships, carriers. I think this is going to go on a much bigger, grandiose scale on large ships.
Interesting take. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either.
CIG at the end of the day is going to do what makes them money. Everybody's got to understand CIG is first and foremost a business, right? Businesses are in business to make money. They are not there to be your friend. They're not there as a charity, right? They're not there. They are there strictly to make money. And they're going to do at the end of the day what makes them money.
I hear you. I wish that they had not said no subscription early on, because I personally feel like games that go with the subscription model, the interests of the developer and the player are better aligned than in games that rely on in-apps or sales or anything of that nature. But
they have a subscription model currently. It's been around since I want to say 2013. It's kind of a joke. You're right. You get access to every PTU wave. You get some rental UEC. You get ship of the month. You get some discount codes. I really don't know how many active subscribers there are. I've been one since 2012, 2013. I take the perks of it. I use those discount codes. But I don't know large scale how many people would stay subscribed based on the current rewards, right? If they change that model to where, okay, it's now worth, in my opinion, it's not worth subscribing right now. In my personal opinion, I do it. I support the game. I like the benefits, but I don't think the cost dollar amount equals out to your benefit to subscribe. I think if you took that same money and went to the gray market, you'd do a lot better on your ships as a whole. I think if they changed those benefits and they made it rewarding enough where people want to subscribe, they could change their business model. They definitely could. I just don't see that based on what they've currently done.
yeah, I hear you. I'm subscribed to just because I want to support that model, but we'll see. I've heard, just because they won't require one doesn't mean we wouldn't have an optional one, and we've seen other games where optional subscriptions are basically required.
I think there will always be an optional subscription because it brings in money, right? CIG's not going to take anything away that brings in funding, right?
Yeah.
Anything that raises their bottom dollar, they're going to keep. Maybe they'll change their rewards to make it more incentive for people, but I don't think you're ever going to see subscribers ever go away. I hope you have every copy of Jump Point like I do. I don't know who all reads it, but that was one of the major perks in the early days. You got your name on the wall at CIG headquarters, right? If you were one of the first year subscribers. Those are the things that they sold in the early days. Yeah, you used to be able to ask Chris Robert 3 questions if you were a year-long subscriber, right? Those are the early day subscription perks. Those are all gone by now.
That's cool. Wasn't here then. I've been subscribed for well over a year, but no such great perk as that. Anyway, this has been great. Is there any topics that I have not brought up that's on your mind that you think the people would be
the gray market?
Let's talk about it. What about it?
So I would highly recommend anybody that plays this game to highly look into the gray market. I will tell you that the gray market is how somebody that doesn't have a lot of money can maximize value in their account, right? CIG allows the gray market. They do not participate in it. They have strictly said that they are not a part of the gray market, but they also do not discourage it, and they allow it, and it is alive and well. And what I mean by the gray market is anybody can open up their web browser and go to Reddit's trades for Star Citizen and see 100 plus posts a day of people selling ships at approximately 50% value, right? Maybe up to 65% value, right? Store credit is readily sold. You do not want to buy store credit anytime near IAE or ILW, as it's about 65, 70%. That's when there's a high demand for it. But you can buy store credit throughout the year from third parties, and I would find a reputable one, where you buy store credit. Say you want to buy $1,000 store credit. It's going to cost you $500. You can take that store credit, buy a LTI hull, like a LTI token. When the Fury came out, the MX came out, some small ship. You take that hull and use it as your base. You wait for ILW, IAE, and you upgrade to any ship in the game that you want outside of the $1,000 plus ships, up to a Polaris if you want, right? You now just acquire that $900 Polaris for like $450, right? You can also use a CCU game, right? So there's a very big value for people to use the gray market. It's how you can really maximize your value. And it's pretty safe these days. In my opinion, the majority of the risk is on the seller, right? Not so much the buyer. CIG will not help anybody claw back a ship that's been gifted off. They require 2-factor authentication. If you've gifted off a ship, they believe it's been lawfully transferred, they will not claw it back. The risk is on the seller. You find somebody that's got 300 plus trades, a reputable history, use a PayPal invoice to make that transaction. You state what your terms are of the deal, they accept. You send them the PayPal, they send you the ship, it's on your account, you melt it for store credit. The way it's done and how ships are transferred with store credit is the seller will take a Aurora ES that they'll buy with cash for $20. They'll take a $950 Polaris or a Hammerhead. They will melt it into store credit. They will then upgrade that tradable Aurora ES to a Hammerhead or a Polaris with that store credit. They can now gift that ship off their account to your account. You receive that gifted ship, you melt it, you now have the store credit to play with, right? You can overnight take a account that's maybe a couple thousand, and now all of a sudden you're rocking in the same area with a Praetorian, right? Or a Legatus after a little bit, right? That Praetorian pack that gets you an Idris M, if you buy it from CIG, it costs you $15,000, right? If you buy it through store credit at 50%, that Praetorian pack now costs you $7,500. You can now see where somebody that doesn't have a lot of assets can maximize their account and really get the ships that they really want without spending that huge token. Does it benefit CIG? Not really. It's money that's not going into their pocket. Do they allow it? Is it legal? Is it currently legal? Yes. And it's been going on for 10 years. I don't see it changing anytime soon. It's a mode, it's a market. Are there a lot of scammers out there? Yes, there are. Is it hard to get scammed? Yes, it is. If you're smart, you only deal with people that have long-standing accounts on Reddit trades. You make sure they have current trade history, positive reviews. It's just like eBay or anything else. And you deal with reputable people, and you only use legitimate forms of transaction like PayPal. You don't send somebody crypto or some other, you don't send them Western Union or green card scratchers from 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
right? You don't do any of those silly things, and you're normally pretty good.
Don't give them your social.
Yeah. I mean, I've probably made at least over 600 transactions selling and buying ships over the last 5 years, and I've been scammed once, and it was my own fault. I was stupid. It's not hard to do, and it's a way for that guy that's on limited income, that's only got a couple $100 to really jump up to that ship that he wants and get a much better value and bang for his buck. Now, the downside to doing that is any dollar you spend on the gray market on a gifted ship doesn't count towards your account value. So if you're trying to become a concierge member, if you're trying to go up to the Legatus package and move up those tiers, those dollars will not go to your account. You'll have the total store value on your account, but it does not count for those tiers. So you only way to up those tiers is by buying directly from CIG. But I mean, you can buy pretty much with store credit almost anything that's outside of War Bond. It's really good for ship upgrades. What I personally do is every time they come out with new subscriber gear every month, I get it at half price. Why? Because I buy store credit at half price. All the subscriber gear, every month they come out with new things, I get it at half credit. And I've been doing that for years. I don't pay full price. I haven't done it for 3 or 4 years. I don't ever really intend to. And once I have that, Praetorian pack that costs $15,000 that I got for $7,000, all those useless ships that I don't want to use, I use them as LTI tokens, and I take store credit and I upgrade all those useless ships on that Praetorian pack. So all those gosh, I'm trying to think. There's probably about 50 useless ships in that pack that most people don't want to use.
Yeah.
I use those as LTI tokens, and I upgrade them to whatever new ship comes out. And that's basically how I maximize account value. I think anybody can do that out there, and I think it's a smart way for the community really to maximize their dollar value.
Oh, yeah, I have never looked into it, so that's all news to me. I'm sure it'll be news to a lot of people. Thanks for sharing. You said this is your first interview you had done since 2012. Is that right?
Yeah, I've never sat down for an interview. I'm vocal in Spectrum. I've been vocal on Spectrum for years. Back on the RSI forums, not a lot of people enjoy my take. I've been vocal in the PvP community, but yeah, it's kind of a new thing for me to sit down and actually do a public televised thing where other people are going to hear my opinion. Normally, it's done in private.
Well, I appreciate you coming on this channel for the first one.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any other topics, or can we end it there?
I'm good, unless you got something that's pricking your mind. I'm sure you'll come up with a lot of comments and feedback from other people. I'm welcome to do another recap or reply if you've got some follow-up questions or questions from the community that you want answers on. I'm happy to delve more into the gray market, give examples, and help anybody that wants to get started in the gray market. That's really where I spend a lot of my time, is trying to educate people and benefit their accounts. In game, I play like an asshole, as you can tell, but outside the game, I'm not the same way in real life. Obviously, I have a different side that I play.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. I appreciate that. People watching, you heard the man. If you have any questions for Shankerz here, drop them in the comments. If we get enough, or we get some interesting topics down there, maybe we'll do a follow up. But beyond that, I mean, I look forward to continuing this conversation generally in the comments below. So we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you watching, and look forward to hearing what you have to say on these topics and takes. It should be good. But until then, we're out of here.
Thank you again. I tell everybody in the verse, stay dangerous. You know, stay strapped or get clapped. That's what we tell everybody.
What is it?
Stay strapped or get clapped. Carry a piece or get one used on you. You know, your guns are there not for decoration.
Good one. Stay strapped or get clapped. Again, this video that we're rolling right here, we're going to roll this after if you want to see the whole thing and zoom into those things that Shankerz shared. So stay tuned if you want to see that. Otherwise, we'll see you soon.